bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. An hour later, let those reactions marinate a little bit longer, and we've got Mike Conti to start off the show on a Wednesday. What's up, Mike?
Guys, what's going on? How are we today?
Good. I don't know if everybody else is, but good.
Yeah. You know what's weird? I almost, and maybe I'm totally looking in the wrong places. But I always look at my Twitter timeline, and I always look at the Atlanta United sub on Reddit for, post-match reaction. I have to tell you, and maybe I'm totally wrong, I feel like people are more upbeat today after a 3-0 loss than they were after a 1-0 win over Alajuelense.
I mean, I've seen that. I've seen folks on the SDH timeline who are a little more pragmatic or what have you. But no, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's weird. And I get it, kind of. And I think Heinze may have set that tone a little bit because I thought he was very, very positive after the match last night. I thought he was, not upbeat. They lost the match, but I think he was very complimentary of the way his team played. And he should be. I mean, for 55 minutes, you controlled the match. Big time. But it's just really interesting to me because I think we've had that debate a lot that, everyone gets really upset with a 1-0 win that might be a little slow and grinding. And there are people who claim they would rather see a team lose 4-3 than win 1-0. Well, maybe there's actually a little bit of truth to that, just in what I saw last night and this morning. But again, I could be looking in the totally incorrect places.
I think you're looking in some different places because I saw some of the other side too, which was the overreaction side, which happens immediately after a game too, and that's, I think, understandable. It's a weird night because you played your best 45 minutes in the first 45, in my opinion. I thought that was the best 45 Atlanta United's played. They were sharp. They were flowing. They were relentless defensively. They created a ton of good chances. First 45 was outstanding. You didn't get anything for it, and you got punished for that. And the most disappointing thing is the response after giving up a goal off of a set piece. I thought the team panicked too much. They started trying to force things, and they lost their heads at that point. And you give up a goal in miscommunication, and Santiago Sosa talked about it. It's two players. One thinks he's got it. The other thinks the other's got it. It happens with Sosa and Dom. You give up that goal, and the third one you're pushing forward. You have to push forward there at home. You can't sit back and be happy with a 2-0 loss at home. So that's the risk you run when you give up those goals. That's what's frustrating is you took the best 45 and you got nothing to show for it.
And then you had your worst 45 and you got punished in a way that you haven't been punished in some time. Sometimes this is not your night, and it really did feel that way, that it just was not going to be Atlanta United's night. The panic after the first goal was disappointing to me because, you're okay going up to Philadelphia down 1-0. You go up there, you get 2 goals, and you're down 1-0, and you're going through. So that was disappointing to me. But, I think in general, I'm trying to look at silver linings today. And I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, but it's kind of the way I feel. Maybe it's not a bad thing that you're not going to have to worry now about playing 42 matches this year. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe, and they're going to go up to Philly on Tuesday, and they're going to try to go through and do everything they have to go through. But let's face it, I mean, down 3-0 and you've given up 3 road goals, it's going to be practically impossible against the Philadelphia team that can be very, very tactical because they know the lead that they have. So it's a really, really stacked deck against Atlanta United. Maybe this is okay that you don't have to worry about match compression in May now. You don't have to worry about match compression in August. In fact, the Champions League final was scheduled on the same night that Atlanta United has a fixture scheduled, an MLS fixture. So that's a silver lining. And a lot of people probably aren't going to like hearing that because you want to win every trophy you can. But you're not going to win this trophy. So that's where you are. Now you got to make the best of it. You got to learn from what you did last night. And you got to set your sights on a really big league match Saturday in New England, and it's all about the league right now. So hopefully this was – I don't even think they needed a wake-up call because they haven't been playing poorly, but hopefully this at least got their attention a little bit and exposed some things that they need to work on.
Well, and, Mike, when you are in a new philosophy with a new coach and you have players who are trying to get acclimated to the system, I mean, you need games and you need game action to sit there and look at mistakes that you make so you can work on those kinds of things. And so obviously there's going to be stuff for Atlanta United to work on, but it's having those reps so you can see what you're doing, and right now I think you're only in your fourth match period.
Yeah,
fifth. That was fifth.
But yeah, I mean, John, spot on. And you were having to do things last night from a lineup standpoint that you have not yet done this year. You're having to do things from a positioning standpoint last night that you have not yet had to do all year.
Which, by the way, you nailed.
Yeah, in the first half, absolutely.
But I think the tactics you nailed because you didn't lose because of tactics. Like, nothing changed tactically. You gave up a goal off a set piece, and your reaction was bad. Gabriel Heinze got the tactics 100% right with what we went through on stoppage time, what we talked about all day yesterday. He took away them playing through the midfield. They had really very little in the game in the first 45 minutes. Very little. They got Mbaizo loose a little bit on the right side. It's really about it. That's a credit to the work to prepare that Heinze put in, the staff, the tactics they dialed up for the game, and for the players for playing in an unfamiliar way because first 45, Atlanta was outstanding. They just did not get a goal to show for it. That's the only thing that was missing. Yeah,
no. And, it's funny, Jim Curtin even talked about it last night, something that you had brought up on stoppage time last night, that Jim Curtin was probably going to look at that lineup card and be a little bit, not freaked out, but just, puzzled about what to do, how to handle it, surprised. And that's something he even talked about after the game when he got that lineup card. He's like, whoa, Atlanta United's going to try to attack us. Mm-hmm. And they did. And Philadelphia, they got some very good goalkeeping, absolutely, from Andre Blake. A few people, I think, have said that Blake was just absolutely spectacular last night. I thought he was good. I thought he made good saves. He
was great first half. He was great. He made a couple really big saves. Really big.
Big saves. I agree with that. But Atlanta United still should have done better. The side netting. Who was it who hit side netting? Was it Mulroney? Not Mulroney.
No, it was Dom on a follow-up. He didn't really have an angle. I think a couple of the saves that Blake made is where you could have done better. But you put 5 shots on target. You had 8 shots.
Well, and not only that, in the first half, you had 6 different players with shots and 4 different players with shots on target. I love seeing that. That's a continuation of something we saw Saturday night. So you have a lot of different players involved in the attack. John, back to your original point. Again, what happened on Saturday, I thought was a little bit ahead of schedule for what I expected Atlanta United to be at this point of the season. It's so much the process right now with so many different pieces, and all of those pieces have not developed chemistry yet. Like Alan Franco, I think an example of someone who just hasn't built enough chemistry yet, and we kind of saw that exposed last night. I thought Franco was good, but I think there were moments, certainly some miscommunications, where you could tell, he probably has not developed enough chemistry yet with his teammates. So, I did not expect a 3-0 loss last night, but like Jason and I said on stoppage time last night, Philadelphia is the best team Atlanta United has played this year. You controlled the match for the first half. You got unlucky. And then in the second half, you got really unlucky. As Jason said, set-piece goal, panic, miscommunication, second goal. And at that point, as Jason said, absolutely correct. You've got to go all in to get one back. And he got burned on the third. So it's explainable. It doesn't change the outcome, but it is explainable. And this is a 3-0 loss that feels totally different to me than, say, the 5-1 loss you had in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it totally different match state. And that's why I think, a lot of people who may not have watched the match or watched it closely last night, they look at the score line and they might think some things of Atlanta United that might not be, 100% accurate this morning.
Yeah, and that's, I think, where some of the overreactions are coming from. When you play the way Atlanta United's going to play, you're always going to be aggressive. You're always going to be risky. They weren't going to come in and be defensive. They weren't going to come in and respect Philly so much that they didn't feel like they could attack. That's not how this team's going to play. It won't be. And even when they go down 1, nothing changes. When they go down 2, nothing changes. They feel like they can go find 2. That's what can happen in these games. That's what can happen sometimes when you don't get these goals. And that's what it comes down to. It's honestly that simple. It's a dumb line, but it's an accurate one, that goals change games. They absolutely do. This game changed with the goal. The second half, the first 10, nobody really grabbed control of it. They get the goal on the corner, and Atlanta pushed or pressed too much. It's a little hard to define. I thought they took too many risks at that point to try to get a quick goal back when they didn't need to. They had plenty of time. They needed to keep playing their game.
Spot on, especially when you're playing legs too. I'll go back to what I said again. If you leave 1-0, if that match ends and Philly wins 1-0, you still have a really decent chance going up there.
Yep.
I feel like they could have been a little more pragmatic in the second half. But to your point, Jason, goals change matches. What if Atlanta United got a quick one last night?
Right. Yeah. I think the tenor changes if one of those first half chances goes in. I think the whole tenor changes.
We have not really seen the Philadelphia Union in the last 2 years, where they have been outstanding in the last 2 years, but we have not really seen the Philadelphia Union get up off the mat with their backs flat on the mat. We have not seen that yet, especially in road matches. If 1 or 2 of those go in the first 20 minutes, we're talking about something just absolutely totally different in the tenor of the match. It would not have, in my opinion, changed the way that Atlanta United played, because as Jason said, Atlanta United's always going to be attacking. But from a mental standpoint, it changes everything for Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And that's where, and again, I want to be really careful. Like, I'm not excusing a 3-0 loss at home. It's the worst home loss you've ever had in club history as far as scoreline is concerned. I'm not excusing it or trying to say it wasn't that bad, but you were really unlucky. I mean, you were really extremely unlucky, especially in that first half. If you go up 1-0 in the first 15 or 20 minutes of that match, I think the second half looks totally different. Maybe Philadelphia pulls a draw. Maybe they even, I don't know, they win 3-2 or something like that. But it just changes everything. That's where sometimes it's just not going to be your night. Last night, unfortunately, was one of those nights. And really unfortunately, it's in a tournament game and not a league game where there's one of 34.
And, Mike, you got into it a little bit earlier here in the segment, but I think that it's also important to look at, from the offensive perspective, all of the different folks that were engaged. You mentioned all the different names that put shots on goal in the first half, and having all of that different engagement. I mean, Alan Franco in the second half, it's the crossbar. You're getting it from a lot of different places as they're getting used to what they're supposed to be doing in this system on a game night.
And you did all of that without Brooks Lennon, which I think is also very, very important. Atlanta United missed Brooks Lennon a lot last night, but the fact that you did have 10 chances created, the fact that you did have as many shots and shots on target as you had, and Brooks Lennon was not involved in the buildup because he wasn't playing, I think, again, if you're looking for silver linings, that's one of them. I know a lot of people are pointing to Jurgen Damm with only 4 good crosses out of 13. Yeah, I mean, I get that, but he still had 4 good crosses, which is a pretty good number.
Yeah, he created 4 chances, more than anybody else, twice as much as anybody else.
Exactly. Don't dwell on the 13. Look at the 4. Look, I mean, Jürgen Damm did not have his best night last night, but I thought he was getting into dangerous spots and creating threats, which is his job, by the way.
Put more variety in the crosses, alter it a little bit. Things like that. I mean, it could absolutely be better, but I think that's an overreaction in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, now I also see why the technical staff rates Mulroney as high as they do. I think that is a really tight battle right now between Mulroney and Damm. It's so tough because I've been thinking really for the last hour, guys, on how I wanted to kind of approach this on your show today, because I don't want to sound like the Atlanta United apologist who's glossing over a 3-0 loss at home. I don't want to sound like that at all, but I don't think it's as bad as it looked with the scoreline.
No, it's not.
But, I mean, the reality is you're probably going out of this tournament now. I know that's disappointing. Yeah. I know that's very, very disappointing, especially when you look at what was ahead potentially in a semifinal. And then, by the time you get to August, you could be a completely different team after the summer transfer window. I mean, you could be even better. You're certainly going to be better from a continuity standpoint. So it's a missed opportunity. I mean, you had a really good chance, I think, to at least get to the final of this tournament. You're very likely not going to now. And it's because you lost 3-0 at home to an MLS team. That's very, very disappointing. But it happened, so learn from it. And let's put it out of our mind Saturday night, because New England's really good. New England is really, really good. And I am certain that Gustavo Bo was watching that match if he gets FS1 last night. And I'm sure that Bruce Arena was watching that match last night. I don't know if they can really take anything out of it because, again, Atlanta United kind of controlled the match, but I'm sure Bruce Arena probably found some nuances in that match film last night that they're going to be working on at their training ground today. And, this is a match that could potentially determine first place in the Eastern Conference on Saturday. So that's what you've got to focus on right now. Atlanta United, not long after they were knocked out by Monterrey, and then they had a really disappointing conditions influenced match in Columbus. They really did get things kick-started in 2019 up in New England at a very similar point of the season, and I think they have an opportunity to do so again this Saturday.
Yeah, it's a game Saturday that'll play out very differently because New England structures themselves differently, but I do wonder if Bruce Arena looks at this and says, we like to play a 4-2-3-1 that kind of turns into 2 up top at times. Yeah. Maybe we need to just play 2 up top because it makes it more uncomfortable for Atlanta when they play in that way. In some aspects. Again, the first half, you should have been up 2-0. So then it would have looked very, very comfortable. But right. I think in the 4-3-3, it's easier for Atlanta with the personnel that they have to be structured, to be confident, to have that control. In a 3-4-3, and this was a very different 3-4-3, it was a 3 and kind of a box, kind of a diamond, kind of man-to-man in that 4-man midfield, which you handled really, really well. They couldn't play through the middle. And then 3 up top, but you had that width, and that width made it difficult for them at times to get forward. What does New England do that they can learn here? They can't play a diamond. Like, they're not built to play a diamond, so they can't play what Philly did. But could they go 4-4-2 and say, we can be better than what Alajuelense did against Atlanta, where they did struggle a little bit against the 4-4-2 in leg 1? Maybe they go down that road. Maybe Gustavo Bo stays up high with Adam Buxa.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and let me also be very clear. I mean, it is. I should not say that Atlanta United's not going to advance declaratively because we don't know. It could absolutely still happen. Toronto in 18 18 or 19 when they made the final. Didn't they come back from 3-0 down to force penalties on the road in the final? I'm trying to remember that. Like maybe it was 2-0, but they had a crazy road comeback in the final. I'm almost positive of that. So it can still happen. It's just going to be really, really tough. But hey, I mean, like I said, we'll see. I think if anything, now we know that you can focus on the MLS portion of the season and, kind of just go with that. It's very, I'll say again, I'm disappointed. I'm really, really disappointed because I thought this was a year, the draw worked out in such a way where if Atlanta United could get past Alajuelense, they'd have a really good chance to go to the final. And to lose 3-0 at home is incredibly disappointing. But that's soccer. It does happen. It does happen. You got to give a lot of credit to Philadelphia, too. They unlocked everything when they scored the set-piece goal. They had to execute on that set piece, and they did, and it unlocked everything. So you have to give credit to them, and you have to give credit to Andre Blake in the first half.
The one thing I'd want to say, Mike, that I think is an element that I think we've all got to learn. When we talk through the game like last night, it's not incorrect to say that Atlanta was by far the better team in the first half. It's not incorrect to say that they created the better chances. Those things are facts. They're not being apologists. They're not making excuses. They're real. And they're part of the conversation. That doesn't gloss over the final result, but it is part of the conversation because you can play really well and lose, even 3-0, because the game changes, you start to push, you get caught. You can play really poorly and win 3-0. Philly didn't play really poorly, but they didn't play well. They weren't great. They got a good performance from their goalkeeper. They scored on a counter, and they hit you when you were falling apart. That's good. That's a result. But is this a performance that Jim Curtin's going to say, this is how we want to play? No, it's not at all. That's soccer. That's the game. That's how it is. You're not always like your performance doesn't always dictate the result, and the result doesn't always show the quality of your performance. That's just real stuff.
It's the Toronto playoff game in 2019. Where I remember you and I were sitting in the booth at the end, and we were both like, yeah, that's soccer. That does happen. Toronto was lucky. They won. Atlanta was better on the night. That's soccer. It does happen. So...
I know you've got to leave us. You've got busy things going on today.
I apologize for that. 2:00 though on the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. We'll have stoppage time.
More and more, and you'll have some comments from our GM for the Atlanta Falcons ahead of the draft day, right?
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see what he has to say. About to jump on his conference call.
There's a lot of interesting things.
Trade down, get stuff, draft picks.
Yeah, I don't anticipate he's going to say that he's doing that today, but if he does, I will tweet it.
Make sure you're following Mike on Twitter, Mike Conti 929 for the latest on the Falcons. Thanks, Mike.
See you guys.
Good.
See you at 2:00 for stoppage time. Facebook.com/929 The Game. We'll be getting into your reactions the rest of the way. We do have a hard out at 12 o'clock. It's a very busy day after look. It's a disappointing loss. There's no way around it. It's a game you wanted to win. It's a game you played well enough to win. It's a game you did not win, and the scoreline is not good. Those things are all no fun. But that's how these things will go sometimes, because this is not going to be a team. To take the whole idea of they'd rather win 4-3 than 1-0, they would not be satisfied with a 1-0 loss here. They'd rather try to turn it. They're not just going to take the loss. They're going to try to turn it, and that brings a 2-0 or a 3-0 into play. That's also part of that equation. We can't pick and choose just the winning part of it. The losing part does dictate the way this team plays as well. You're always going to try to turn the game because you have that kind of belief. I thought Santiago Sosa was excellent. I thought Emerson Hyndman was very good last night. Jurgen Damm, it's all over the map. There's good, there's bad. It was more inconsistent than you'd like to see. I think that's a definitely fair way to put it. But he did create 4 chances, and you can't wash that away either. And they weren't all just nothing chances, you know. He needs to be more consistent because he's going to be pushed by Jake Mulroney, who came on and I thought played pretty well in his limited minutes. The Cubo Torres for Franco Ibarra sub was an interesting one. I didn't know what it would do tactically for the team. I think Torres kind of played underneath Joseph Martinez and was somewhat of a midfielder and somewhat of just trying to get on the end of things in the 18, giving a second body. He was effective, but he didn't get a goal. That's how that goes. Could you have brought in Eric Lopez there? Sure, you could have. Cubo Torres has more experience in these moments. Eric Lopez is, I think, up to 13 professional games now. There's an idea that Eric Lopez is something that I don't think he is because of a price tag. Price tag doesn't dictate who you are as a player. It doesn't give you more games. It doesn't give you more experience. He needs experience, just like Alan Franco needed to get the experience to play last night to get the best out of him. But you also got to balance winning games and building the team and building the best group to win games. So it's a lot to juggle. It's a lot to juggle in some ways. Yeah, if you go out here and you're going to go to Philly and you're going to throw everything forward and you're going to try to get the goals and you're absolutely going to believe that you can. If you do, it's an amazing comeback. We'll be talking about it for years. If you don't, simplifies things. Then you're building through the season. But Gabriel Heinze said it day one. This is not going to be a project that is determined in his mind by results and strictly results. He's looking for the team to play a certain way. He's looking for quality. He's looking for his ideas in the way this team should play to come through on the field. They did last night in really big ways, and I think he took a lot out of it. He's got to work on the mistakes, and he will, and a lot of it is mentality with the players on the field, and that's the process. You get better every time, but he's not going to be derailed by a bad result. That's not going to change anything.
One other guy that I wanted to focus on, at least from the first 45, was George Bello. And what we saw from George Bello in the first 45, working and underlapping and having all the cutting runs, had a couple of great passes, playing in a position that we're not used to seeing him in. I think that he integrated himself well, especially in that first 45 minutes last night.
Yeah, it's not an underlap because he was a midfielder. Like, it's not even the same terminology because he's playing a completely different role. He was playing as a central midfielder. And any thoughts that Bello couldn't figure out how to play in this manner, throw those in the trash. George Bello looked like a seasoned veteran last night. He won 5 of his 7 duels on the ground. He only had 6 incomplete passes. He was good defensively. George Bello was very, very strong. Very, very strong. I was impressed with him because he was the one that, when that lineup came out, I'm like, well, okay, does he go on the wing? Because that'd be an easy spot for him. Does he play as the third center back? Okay, he could possibly do that. He played as one of the central midfielders, which was maybe the least likely one in my mind because we had never seen it. I'd like to see it again in these situations if you need to because he was that good.
Yeah, and for me, looking through my gibberish last night, there's a lot of the word Bello on here, and so that's why I wanted to bring George up as someone who stood out in an unfamiliar place last night as we got into the match. So didn't want to leave him off to the side.
It's a balancing act that you've got to have when you watch teams that play this way, and you can go back and look at reactions to Bielsa at Leeds. It was a culture shock for fans at first. Pep at City, it was a culture shock for City fans. There was all the talk about he could never get it in England, that kind of thing. It's part of the process is you've got to figure out how to be comfortable playing on the edge. And they should have remained comfortable after conceding on a set piece. They really should have because they were the better team up to that point. But they didn't look the same after conceding that goal. And that is, look at the players that were on the field at that time in those important roles. You've got Sosa at 21. You've got Barco at 22. Heineman's, 24. Bello's a teenager. Franco Ibarra, a teenager. Alan Franco's a veteran at 24, 25. Yeah. Miles, same thing. Yeah. You made a mistake on the corner. You made a mistake that then led to a breakdown. And yeah, you can, like Alan Franco, I thought took the most aggressive route in trying to defend the second goal. But you're dead in the water when Dom and Sosa miscommunicate and let that go. Yep. You're dead in the water at that point. You got to do something. Franco went with the I'm going to blow this thing up route rather than I'm going to try to wait it out and hope I can get help in time. All right, you can work through that decision-making process, but you were dead because of the mistake before. And the third goal, again, I mean, it's just you're pushing up, you get caught on that ball. I don't think people would have actually been comfortable if they decided to just sit back and give the ball away and defend at 2-0 down. I don't think that would have been well received. It's not how Gabriel Heinze is going to play.
Right. He's
going to take the positives out of this, and he's going to work to fix the mistakes, and he's going to talk about the mentality in those moments where you do have something go against you. Got to learn to deal with it, and young players have to learn how to keep their heads in those moments.
All right, so last night, Nick Jarrett and I did Salty Takeaway, and you had a post-game show. How deep into the timeline do you want to go when it comes to reactions?
Well, you don't need to pull anything that you guys talked about on Salty Takeaway, and right. I didn't pull anything from the Soccer Down Here timeline. So
okay.
Colonel's got a request on one. I think he shared a Tom Bogert tweet.
Okay. Let's see. How recent was it? Because I dialed back all the way to.
It doesn't matter. Just go ahead and start where you guys left off, I guess.
All right. Well, hang on. Now that I got the Colonel all dialed up here.
Oh boy, here we go. This is gonna take 10
I
minutes.
know. It's like me chasing. Yeah, me chasing things. So that's looking. I know. Just you may as well just go ahead and start playing like thinking music here. Oh, okay. Here we go. Bogert. This is the absolute peak performance for the Philadelphia Union ethos. The energy, tenacity, grit, ground covering, homegrowns, Jose Martinez, yellow card and all. This is the Union brand. It's wonderful. And the Colonel says, Tale of Two Cities.
The grit, the scrappiness, the CONCACAFiness, if we want to get into that, which is a sidebar. It didn't affect anything about the result. The grit and those elements of it, yeah, that's something they want in their team. But they also don't want to get played off the park the way that they were. That's not going to be okay. That's what that tweet shows me is something that Heinze has talked about many times in his career. The result doesn't define the performance. It doesn't define the performance. Because Philadelphia should not, and I don't think they will be, happy with the performance. They're ecstatic with the result.
Yeah.
And they're ecstatic with how they reacted to Atlanta's performance. They don't want to play games where how much of the ball did they have? Ultimately, 35%. No, that's not the way they want to play. It's just not. So the result here, and again, this gets back to that idea. The result doesn't mean they played well. It doesn't. They're 2 games in MLS. They had 53% of the ball. That's far more of what Philly wants to be. They want to play through the middle. They don't just have 4 guys in the middle to destroy things. They want to play through the middle. So no, this idea that that's the peak performance of Philadelphia, it's the peak result. It's not the peak performance. The performance is actually nowhere near what they want. They want to be able to do a lot of the same things Atlanta does. They want the ball. They want to win it back quickly. But they want to do it through the middle of the park, whereas Gabriel Heinze wants to stretch the field. That's where they differ. But no, I don't know what to tell you because the performance is not very good, and I don't think it's anything what Jim Curtin wants if you've listened to Jim Curtin talk about how he wants his team to play.
All right, so picking up after Salty Takeaway from last night on the timeline, Kyle Kessler, hot take.
Uh-oh.
So Philadelphia wasn't that good on the night overall. They were just more clinical in the final third when it mattered. Dom cuts to the end line too much when he doesn't have the space. It needs to be played in more at full pace. The first half was great. They were gassed out in the second half.
Dom can be better with his angles, for sure. I think we've covered Philly. I mean, Philly gets the win, so they're going to be happy about it, but were they great? No, they were great in getting the result. They were not great in their overall performance. They relied on their goalkeeper to bail them out a lot, and they didn't really create much on their own. That's not where they want to be. So, I mean, but they're on the road, so again, you have a different mentality. Atlanta's in a different place. Jim Curtin's been in Philly for a long time. He's had this group together for a long time. They can go into a situation in Atlanta and say, all right, we know who we are. We are what we are. We know what we are. We need to be a little more conservative here. We need to be a little more careful here. And I think they did that at halftime. First half, they didn't. They just got played off the park. Atlanta's not in that situation. This group hasn't been together. Gabriel Heinze's, was in game 5. You have to establish who you are. You can't deviate from that. You can't say, well, it's Champions League game, so we got to be really careful. It's the first leg. Can't do that. You can't be Zinedine Zidane against Chelsea yesterday. You've got to establish who you are, and that comes with risk. So that's one of the bigger differences here.
Michael Heads, one line. We got out CONCACAF in our own stadium.
Well, I mean, you can't control when you get CONCACAF. It doesn't matter where it was. They had the lead. You can't CONCACAF if you don't have the lead. Like you can't do the things that Philly did to waste time and all that. And it was annoying, absolutely. Atlanta would have done the same things if they had had the lead and wanted to be in that way. I think generally what you see with Atlanta when they have the lead is they want to grow the lead. Philly knew what the situation was. They knew they weren't likely to get more goals, so they started time wasting very early. That's, it's part of the game. Don't give up the goal. That's all you can say. It's the same thing as like getting mad when somebody celebrates. Well, don't give up the goal.
Yeah.
You can't really do anything about it. Give up the goal.
Tafka says it comes to this, neither Moreno nor Dom nor Barco nor Mulraney are goal scorers. It showed today. Joseph is not back yet, and he's got another point after that.
You put 6 shots on goal in the first half. 5 or 6. I think it might have been 5. I think it was 8 shots and 5 on target in the first half. I'll double check that anyway.
I think it was 8 and 5. You're right.
You forced saves. So it's a little hard to complain about people not being goal scorers when you're forcing saves. And none of them were, I think the easiest one was the long-range shot from Ibarra. People have to score, yes. But I'm not complaining about anybody's attempts on goal there in that first half because you forced Blake to make some pretty big plays.
Then Tafka's second point, why is the system never testing the space behind the back line, never getting in behind? Why?
They weren't giving you that. You can't put the ball in behind if their back line is forced back. There's no space. So what do you want? Like, I don't understand. You don't play in a vacuum. Philadelphia is a good team defensively. They didn't give you any space in behind. When you played those long diagonals, that was your points to try to switch and to try to get space. You weren't getting it in behind, so you got it out wide. The game was wide because that's just how Philly plays. They're not good at wide because they play a 4-4-2 diamond. They overload the middle. That's where the game was. But Atlanta always wants to stretch the field. They don't always want to stretch the field just to put in crosses, but they want to stretch the field to open it up. You couldn't really open Philly up because they are what they are. They're very good at it. You had to punish them from wide. You ultimately didn't. But you did have the chances to. You did create the chances to. The idea of, I don't think they're opting not to play it in behind. I don't know, Tafka, what you want. Do you want them to bomb it over the top? That's not going to work. Do you want them to try to hit a through ball? They have when it's been on. And it was a short range, but the ball from Joseph to Marcelino Moreno was that. It was a through ball between the lines. But if the opponent's defense doesn't give you anything over the top, there's nothing to take.
Jason Joyner, in addition to stuff that we've already talked about, he says MLS should be embarrassed by the blatant dives by Philly in the second half. And then he says, secondarily, I'm not sure United can keep playing 3 on the back line.
Nothing to do. United's not playing 3 on the back line regularly. I think there's other people really confusing this, and we'll get into that in a second. There's nothing for MLS to do. I mean, it's Philadelphia who did it because they had a lead and they knew they were getting outplayed. You don't act that way if you're not in trouble, if you're not worried. If you're confident that you've got your 2-0 lead and you're fine, you're not going to act that way. Look at a Mexican team when they go to Central America and they're bossing the game. You don't see the diving or anything like that. But what do you see in a moment like the Olympia game at the Estadio Azteca? You see diving from Club America because they know they're on the ropes. It's the same thing a boxer does when they're beat up and they grab somebody and they try to hold you and they do the things that are against the rules because they're trying to hold on to the fight. Philadelphia playing in that way, they were scared. That's why you do it. You're trying to see the game out. You don't want to get caught. So Marufo, the biggest mistake he made was he didn't add more time on at the back end. And it should have been more than 6. It should have been at least 8. Would it have changed the game? No, it wouldn't have. I'd rather have him do what he did than throw a bunch of cards in a tournament that has accumulation. He does not want to throw cards. He does not want to blow the whistle a ton. That's who he is. He is consistent. Biggest issue was, for me, the fact that he didn't add enough time back on. But we're talking a couple minutes. That's all.
Gustavo came in last night on Twitter and said, I already said I have a problem with our wingers. They overflow, cross, dribble, but they can finish well. Overflows used only to take more time. Crosses only to the second post. Where's the first post?
That's a good point. The run's got to be there. Yeah.
Dribbles only to break on one side. You have to dribble frontally to open the defense.
And I think Moreno does that a lot, where he cuts across the top of the 18. Dom doesn't do it as much, and I'd like to see him do it more because I think he's really effective when he cuts inside. You've got to have more variety in your play out wide, but you are trying to create 1v1s from wide positions and win them and go to goal. That's what you're trying to create. You've created a good bit of that. That's what it is. Burn, yeah, hold on. Let me go back on something. When I'm talking about last night's game, no, Jurgen Damm and Marcelino Moreno and Jake Mulroney are not double-digit goal guys. No, they haven't been in their career. This system, I think, can bring that out of Moreno. We haven't seen it consistently enough yet. But last night, you got good quality chances created from all of them, and I don't think they blew them. You know, like if you score, then we're having a different conversation about it, obviously. I think they put shots on frame in good ways. I don't have a problem with their attacking last night. In the big picture, one of them does need to step up a little bit and give you some goals, or you're going to need to get them from Barco or Heinemann. You're going to need somebody else to contribute goal scoring, especially as Joseph is still knocking rust off. He looked good by the end of the first half, I thought. Second half, I mean, didn't really see him on the ball much. Didn't really find him as much, which was a problem, which was a big problem. Trying to think if there's anything else in that area that I wanted to touch on. The crosses, the wide play, you need more variety in your attacking from wide positions. Last night, there was a lot of it because of the way Philly played. There probably wasn't as much ability to have more variety because they had 2 center backs, and a lot of times in those situations, defending with 3 or 4 central midfielders if Montero dropped. It's crowded. Don't go into the crowd. Try to pull the crowd out. That's just kind of common sense.
Natasha, our resident kitchen witch, says her reaction is we weren't supposed to be in CONCACAF Champions League. We played Saturday. We have a new coach and a new system, missing Lennon. Joseph is still working back to game readiness. Now we can focus on the league and earning another CCL opportunity. The first half demoed the potential.
First half absolutely demoed the potential. You just got to finish. I mean, that's any team in the world. Any team in the world. You take whatever team you want. You play that first half, you're going to be happy, but you're also going to say, you got to finish. Because the longer you let somebody hang around, it just takes one mistake. One mistake and the game changes. And that's what happened. It's a mistake on a corner. It's a mistake where Alan Franco was very aggressive in the initial play, stepped out very far. It ends up being a corner. You don't handle it well. I don't know if Glesnes got a touch at the near post. Miles hesitated at the top of the 6, and Shabilko's wide open on the back post, and he's the last guy you can leave open on the back post. So it is what it is. Like, you've got to finish your chances. But the most important thing, and I think Heinze made this clear last night, and I always agree with this kind of idea. He said, and this is translated, it's from the club, the worry would exist if we didn't have the chances. More than worry, this means we need to keep working to finish chances. The final result is a concern, but my concern goes a different way. The lack of goals, it's like saying a baseball team has a lack of home runs. It's not easy to do. It is a tough thing to do, is to score a goal in this game. Very tough. You can't score goals if you don't create chances. It's not easy to create chances, but it's easier to create chances than to score goals. They're creating double-digit chances consistently. Where I have a concern last night is you didn't create enough chances after you fell behind. That's a problem. But the whole picture of the 90, you created enough chances to win that game. And you didn't, because you didn't finish. You didn't convert. Sometimes it is that simple. That is a huge element.
Tiki Taka's in this morning, and Tiki Taka says, we've added defenders and defensive midfielders to a team that couldn't score last year. Joseph is not Joseph yet, and Lisandro is not looking effective. Are we surprised this team doesn't finish?
You got to build, though. Like, again, you're not trying to just throw guys in to get cheap goals right now, because there's no such thing. Like, if you go add another forward, are you going to then bench Joseph? Lisandro Lopez has, I think, been too much involved in trying to combine with others and bring others into the play. I'd like to see him be more selfish. I'd like to see him go to goal more. And if you have not seen it, our thoughts and our prayers go out to Lisandro and his family. His father passed yesterday. That's why he wasn't part of the team. That didn't come out in Argentina until pretty late last night. Racing Club tweeted that out. So definitely thinking about Lisandro. And, I mean, it's tough enough to go to another country during a pandemic, but then to have this happen, it's an awful thing. So we'll see when Lisandro is back and ready to rejoin the group. Hope everything's okay with him and the family as best as it can be at the moment. But in general, the way you're playing, you're trying to build for the long haul, and the attack is something that takes time. It takes the most time. The defense, it's not just about the personnel you've added. The defense is another part that you work on first, because if you don't have that, you're going to lose more. You just will. If you are attack first, bad defense, or good defense, bad offense, you're going to win more with the latter. Because you'll find a deflected goal, you'll find a goal off a set piece, you'll find something, but you're keeping the other team off the board generally. If you're the other way, you might score some goals, but then you're going to give up a whole bunch more. And if you have those days where you're not scoring the goals, which happens to every team, you're going to lose every time. San Jose is the example of that. San Jose is not a good defensive team. LA Galaxy in recent years have been a bad defensive team. What have they gotten? You've got to be good defensively.
Under the Weather is in this morning. Jose Martinez should have seen a second yellow, and Jair Marufo seemed to lose the plot. However, I'll take this performance almost any night. I think the Mulroney for Moreno sub didn't work and tilted the field too much to the right, and that Dom wasn't as bad as people seem to think he was.
I didn't think Dom was as bad as people are trying to create the narrative. The Mulroney to Moreno sub was okay. I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't think it changed anything. I was skeptical of the Kubo Ibarra sub, but Kubo he didn't do anything wrong, and he played through a head injury that kept reopening. I guess it was on the top of his head, which is a very difficult place to deal with. Kubo gives you everything he's got. I have no problems with what Kubo Torres gives this team. He's not a starter, in my opinion, at this point, but he's a guy who gives you that energy off the bench. I mean, he was trying to will this team forward. I like that. They needed that at that point. Moreno is a player that a lot of people have had questions about here lately, playing on the wing, because we saw him centrally last year. If he hadn't played centrally here last year, if he hadn't moved centrally from the wing at Lanús in his last year there, I think it'd be a very different conversation. I want to see him a little bit more straight lines at times. I think at times he's trying too much. Keep it a little simpler. He can beat people on the dribble. He's the second best player in MLS on the dribble right now. He can be the first. But use it to create more instead of the zigzag I think we see at times from him. One move, go to goal. One move, put in the cross. Like, a little simpler from him, I think, will help. Mulroney's a little more like that at times. It's step over to create the angle for the cross. It's step over to cut inside for the shot. It's just a little faster. And right now, while you're trying to build this chemistry, it's easier to read for the players around you. They know what's coming a little bit easier. I think Moreno's a little bit of a tougher player to read, so it's going to take time to build those connections.
Will is in this morning, Whittlove on the Twitters, and he says a context reaction with a question mark.
Okay.
Bielsa and those like him value the man marking all over the field, suffer losses like this from time to time. Will mentions the Almeida 7-1 loss against Seattle and the Bielsa 6-2 loss against Manchester United just before Christmas in 2020. It's a high-risk, high-reward system. Mm-hmm. Will says, I think it's more encouraging to see such a dramatic difference in style so early, 5 games in. Heinze said he was waiting for more games, for more mistakes, and more teachable moments. Sucks it comes in a high-profile game all the same, but we are on our way.
Yeah, it's much further ahead than I thought it would be, and that's what we were talking about before last night. That hasn't changed. They understand what Gabriel Heinze wants. They get it, and I think you've seen it pretty strongly so far. I mean, in a lot of different ways. Against Orlando, different kind of game. Tough game. You got a result. You wanted more, but tough game. Chicago, you went 1-1. You had a much better response to giving up a goal against Chicago. And it was an individual mistake, maybe a few individuals' mistakes. That's where you're giving up goals right now. Individual breakdowns. As Will says, when you're playing man-to-man, an individual breakdown, yeah, this is what happens. This is how it goes. What will have a very important thing to watch for is how they come out on Saturday after this result. How do they look off the bat on Saturday in New England? How do they look that? They need to come back with a response. Alex Pacino on the Twitch pitch says, I don't think it's fair to say that we outplayed Philly. We dominated and were imposing our will, but didn't outplay. Not when the final score is 3-0. The scoring is part of the playing. The time wasting is part of the playing. We'll get there. I love the way that we were playing. Can't still be talking about finishing for another month, though. We'll probably talk about finishing forever because that's just what it is. Even Joseph, when he is at his best, goes through spells where he's not finding the back of the net. It's just part of the game. It's the hardest part to deal with. I've tried to be pretty clear. I think they outplayed Philly in the first half. I think they dominated Philly in the first half. I don't have a problem saying that. The result is the result. I think Atlanta was the better team in terms of quality of play. However you want to define it, if it's outplay, if it's whatever. They dominated them in the first half. Overall, I think they were the better team. But they made mistakes that cost them goals. And the mistakes are absolutely part of the game. The time wasting and stuff, you get a lead, you do that, especially if you're worried about conceding that lead. I don't have a problem with it. It's just part of the game. Does it drive you crazy in the 90 minutes? Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're on the team, drives you insane. If you're a manager, drives you insane. You get mad, you yell, you say things. After the final whistle, because you'd do the same thing if you were in that situation. It's just part of it. It's just part of it. But Alex, no, I think it's okay to say that Atlanta was the better team. I think you have to look at the quality of the play, because if you only say that the performance is defined, the measure of the performance, the quality of the performance is defined by the result, I don't think you tell the whole picture. I don't. And this is going to be something that Gabriel Heinze consistently says. He will consistently say it. He said it throughout his career. He's looking at the overall performance. He'll look at what happened to determine the result. He'll look at it. But he's going to talk about the performance. I don't think Heinze is talking out of both sides of his mouth, Katie. I don't get that. I think against Orlando, he felt like they should have won the game. And they always want to play to win. He said they play to win. He said he wouldn't be satisfied with a draw. That was what he said there. That was the exact quote. Well, not the exact quote. That's the paraphrased quote. That was the intent of what he said. Here, he's talking about the performance. Is he satisfied with the loss? No, I don't think he said that. But he is happy with the way they played, not with the result. It's different, and it's not trying to wash it away or get into semantics. It is a different conversation. You have to, as a manager, unless you're in a Big Sam situation where you're a relegation fight guy and the result is all that matters. I mean, he doesn't care about how they play. It is the result. If you're Gabriel Heinze, if you're Marcelo Bielsa, if you're Pep Guardiola, like, the further up the ladder you go, the more results matter. And Heinze is in a different place than he was at Vélez. This is a team with more expectations than Vélez had. The results do matter. Game 5 in his run, he's not getting hung up on results. He's not going to settle for a draw or be happy with a draw. He's going to always play to get wins. But he's not going to overly go down the other side and trash everybody in a loss. He's not going to do that. Not if they play the way he wants. And that's a hard thing to judge sometimes, especially, I think, for people who might not understand everything he wants. And if you're only defining it by result, you're going to be angry. If you're defining it by the quality of the play, you shouldn't be angry. But there are things that can be better. I know, that's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff. And yes, Alex Bassine, you are correct. Heinze is very focused on lifting the guys, talking to the media, using the media to talk to his players. Like, yes, he's absolutely doing that. And he's protecting this young team, as he should. That's his job. That's his job. But I don't think he's being disingenuous with you with what he's saying either.
All right, let me combine a couple here that are kind of on the same topic as we get to close to the top of the hour. Kevin from Charlotte, to your last point, the results will come. Gabby will either correct the individual errors that lead to the goals and or find a balance toward the end of games in risk and reward. Then Steve Dojnik says, a general thought. He was extremely happy watching the first half of the game. He hadn't seen that type of dominance in 2 years. In the second half, it was a complete shock to the system, and I don't think any of us were expecting it. Question from Steve. Did we lose focus as a team, or did Philly just game us or trick us into thinking we were the better team?
No, the latter part. No. No, that's not how it works. You lost focus after you conceded. You lost focus. You kind of panicked. You kind of tried to do too much in those moments. You had plenty of time. You were the better team. You needed to continue with what you were doing, not try to do more than what you were doing and risk more. You didn't need to do that yet. It wasn't time. You go down 2-0, we're having a different conversation. You go down 1-0, stick with the game. Play the game. Play what's in front of you. And they didn't do that. Philly's not that all-powerful to be able to rope-a-dope somebody here. That's way too risky to try to do, and they couldn't do that. They weren't laying down. They were getting outplayed in the first half. It's just how it is. We got more. I know there's more reactions. We got some other things to talk in hour number 2 as well. We will get there, but John's got to tell us first about our good friend, Steve Apolinsky.
Apolinsky and Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. For wrongful death and serious injury matters, one place you need to go, and it is the firm, Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. 3 different ways that you can get in contact with them. You can pick up the phone, get a free consultation by dialing 404-377-9191. You can shoot Steve an email directly, steve at aa-legal.com, or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small, type in aa-legal.com in the address bar, like that. You hit the enter key, the return key, the arrow key, whatever advances you to the next page, and you will get to see the homepage for Apolinsky and Associates, LLC. A lot of pull-down tabs where you can get a lot of information on all the different cases that they can handle, find out more information about the firm, find out about all the awards that they have been awarded and accrued over 30 years of being in business, and they have garnered over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama for all of the hard work that they have done. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine for being one of the top 100 firms in this here state of Georgia. And if you even still have questions after looking at the homepage, there's a pop-up window that pops up, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. The website for Apolinsky and Associates LLC, once again, the reminder, aa-legal.com.
We'll see if the overreactions continue with the read.
I'm sure they do.
Multi-dimensional read, Nick Alifi says.
Multi-dimensional.
Oh, Lord clickety-clack. -2 for the clacks. Waiting on more scores. 6.1.
It's going to be one of those days, huh?
7.02. -3 for the address bar typing, clacking. +1 for the .com pause. Not angry, but not happy. 5.875. See, the East German judge goes up during a bad overreaction.
I was going to say, on overreaction dates where the result was a negative for the team, the West Russian East German judge gives a higher grade. There's irony.
Well, and it's a negative for the read. It wasn't one of your better reads. I'll have to give that to you. It wasn't one of your better ones. It was okay. I think the numbers are pretty reflective of it. Like sevens.
Just trying to juggle the information.
Excuses now. 7.6, 5, 7.5, 6. Yeah, that's about where I'm at. 6.5. Yeah, I'm kind of in there. A C. You know, it's there. It's not horrible. You tried to lift it with the clicky clacking. It didn't work.
Got to try something sometimes.
Uncle No Pockets gives a 10 to try to give some good vibes.
Thank you, Uncle No
Uncle
Pockets.
and Alex Bassine are trying to lift the Twitch pitch with 10s. I think everybody else is in the same thing. He passes the class barely. Yeah, that's about where I'm at. Okay.
So it's like, what, it's a D+?
No, I give you a C. It's a solid C. It's a 7.
All right. Crappy dunk again.
No, it's just a 7. It's okay. It's okay.
Like I said, that's what we've determined what crappy dunks are in the dunk contest at the All-Star game.
Uncle is out of character. He says, and I'm usually the true negative Nancy. Or Nelly, depending on where you're from. But
thank you.
Yes. Making Uncle No Pockets trying to lift everybody up. Look, I mean, I don't know. I think it has changed a little bit this morning, which is what I expected. Last night, I was a little surprised by some of the vitriol.
Yes.
That was a little surprising. Because it's kind of to be expected. You know, maybe the Chicago win, a little bit of overinflated expectation, which is understandable. The result is very deflating. The actual performance, not really. It's not. I wanted to share a couple of quotes. I don't think they got quite as much play from Santiago Sosa last night. Asking if his role changed during the match. We always adapt to the opposition. Sometimes my position is further forward, sometimes further back. Today I stayed further back. I always try to do my best in whatever position Gabriel's asking me to play. He was a center back last night. I think one of the earlier comments was about can't play 3 in the back. You're always going to play 3 in the back when they play 2 up front. Like, you got to get used to it. You're not going to play 2 against 2. You can't play 2 against 2 when you are getting forward as much as you are. You just can't. You absolutely can't, because you don't want to risk it that way. That's too risky. You want a third guy. Sosa is great for that because he can step up and join the midfield when the play allows him to, but he can drop back and be a center back when he has to. Sosa's perfect for that role. He was great last night. But they're not playing 3 in the back outside of Alo Walenze, who played 2 up top in leg 1. They did not in leg 2. And Philadelphia. You didn't play 2 up top against Orlando. Sosa stepped into the midfield. You didn't play 2 up top against Chicago. Sosa played as a holding midfielder. Formation doesn't matter with this. It matters in terms of the individual tactics in a game. That's why you saw 4 central midfielders. You saw Bello in there yesterday. The way you saw the team function, because of Philly, because you have to do that to match them. Okay, you created your advantages. You didn't take advantage of them out wide. Okay, but you played the way you wanted to play in the first half. Mentality changed when you conceded. That's a problem. You see the way the team plays in different games where the shape might be a little bit different, an individual tactic might be a little bit different, but they're always trying to play in the same way. High line, try to win the ball back fast, get numbers forward, play in the other half, exploit the width. It's going to happen no matter what shape you're in. The shape doesn't matter as much in that, and that needs to be understood.
Joe Johnstone in this morning on Twitter, and he says, Philly, and it's a question with a list. He says, is Philly hated more than Toronto overall now? He wants to know what's everyone's top 5 most hated clubs in the league. For him personally, yesterday's result withstanding, here's his top 5. 1A is Orlando. 1B is now Philly. 3 is Red Bulls. 4 is NYC. 5 is Toronto. And he says, and by hated, I mean the teams that truly get him in a heated mood. He says, don't get me wrong, I love when we play these teams, but these matches just have something extra every time.
It's funny, we've got Uncle No Pockets being a voice of trying to pump sunshine, and we've got the ultimate sunshine pumper, Joe Johnstone, talking about hate. Man, we're all out of whack. Philly, it's good for rivalry. It's absolutely good for a rivalry. The best rivalries come from games like this. It comes from games like this. That's a good thing. I love it. I hate it in the moment. Like, I hate it in the situation where teams doing the rolling around. Sergio Santos is creating an injury, and you put the referee in a really bad situation because if he's actually injured, then you lose control of the game. If you give him a yellow card and he's actually done his hamstring, you can't, and it sucks. It's awful. So I hate when that happens in the game, and it does linger to the next time. It will linger next week. That's what's hard about these is you play them again. Everything that happened here that you were angry about, you're going to remember it a week later. It's good for creating this conversation about who we don't like. Nick Alifi has Toronto first, Orlando second, Portland third. He's got Toronto again fourth. I don't think that's an accident. And Nashville fifth. Domer's got Orlando, Toronto, Red Bulls, Orlando again, and Red Bulls. 4 card says Orlando's 3 to 5. Katie says Philly's number 2. As a fan, likes Philly because he likes Curtin, and I do too. I like what Philly does, but I can not like how they play against Atlanta for sure. It is a rivalry, Rich, and that's a good thing. And I know you're very happy today. I know Perfect Tommy's very happy today, and you guys should be. What I would like to hear from the Philadelphia contingent is, are you happy with the result? Are you happy with the way the team played? Are you happy with the way the team played because you got the result? Those kinds of things. I was surprised that Philly was dominated as much as they were in the first half. I didn't expect that. I didn't. But you got to give them a lot of credit for not being overwhelmed by it and in taking care of business in the second. That's a good team. That's the sign of a good team. Thomas DeWin, Orlando, New Jersey, Toronto, and maybe Philly after last night. I'm just reading words. Katie, Orlando, Red Bulls, NYC, DC. Ricky, Orlando, Toronto, Red Bulls, Philly, LAFC. Ninja, Red Bulls, Orlando, Nashville, Toronto. I didn't know there was hate for Nashville. Unk's 2 teams because he's in Portland. It's Atlanta and it's Portland, and hates everybody else. 4 card, my top 5, I guess, of hate. Toronto, 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 Toronto. Yeah. Burned head, and Rich, this is, yeah, exactly. Win's a win. This is Rich from Philly. Win's a win by any means. Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm. And you're at a point where I don't think you have to worry about style right now because we know what Philly style is. We know how they play. They know how they play. They're comfortable enough to make the alterations when they need to in these moments. Uncle, I got you. We're good. People are talking about what they love and what they hate, and it's getting all kinds of confusing because everything's mixed up today. That's how it goes.
So we're a jumble of emotion.
It's a jumble. We're thrown off because Joe's turned heel and Uncle's turned babyface, and it's all confusing. That's what happens on an Overreaction Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
But Rich, like, absolutely, it's a win. You're happy to get the win. Philly did what they had to do in the road leg and got a lot more out of the road leg than they probably planned on. And they didn't back off. Like, I think that's the most impressive thing that Philly did is you get the first goal and it's fortunate. You know, it's a spot where Miles loses his mark. I don't know if he thought that was getting deflected by Glesnes at the near post or what, but he hesitated at the top of the six and Shabilko got behind him. That's a problem. So you get that goal. It's against the run of play. It's against the way the game had gone up to that point. But after 10 minutes or so, Philly said, we don't have to just park the bus and sit on one. We can continue to play. They're shaky. They're shook by giving up that goal. We can continue to do what we do and be ready if the opportunity presents itself. And it did. With the balls over the top, the through balls, not long balls over the top, but with getting behind a high line. And that's a credit to Jim Curtin because he knew his team could handle where the game was and not give up the opportunity to add to the lead, make it even harder in the second leg for Atlanta. It's a credit to Curtin. It's a credit to Philly.
Logando's top 5 of hate: Orlando, Red Bulls, Crew, Nashville at 4, and Toronto is his number 5. And then also in the lists making Tafka, he says in his most hated, I'm guessing this is in order: Orlando, Red Bulls, Philly, Seattle, and the Galaxy.
Mine is probably Orlando, Red Bulls, Seattle.
Yeah.
Toronto? I don't have hate for Toronto in the same way. I guess they'd probably be in the top 5 by default because I'm trying to think of anybody else that I really don't like. Maybe NYC.
Yeah.
They'd probably be 4. I'll go Toronto 5.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you there. I could take those. Next couple of questions are about the back line, or thoughts about the back line.
Okay.
Shiva and South Georgia. Shiva is sad and frustrated at the results, not disappointed. What I saw in the first half, potentially what this team can be mid-season, is so encouraging, and I could tell how hard the boys had worked to implement it. Shiva's question is, if Walks had subbed in after the first goal, could the second and third been avoided?
No, I didn't know that. Because it wasn't anything about structure that created the second and third goals. It was the situation in the game, and it was an individual mistake on the second goal. So I don't know if Walks coming in changes anything. Franco was good. I mean, if you had brought Walks on to move Sosa higher up the field, that would have been the element that could have been interesting. Would Sosa have been as effective in more of an 8 role than as a defensive midfielder? I don't know. We just haven't seen it as much. He can play it. He played it some at River, but I think he's best in a holding midfield / center back role. Does he do as much going forward? I just don't know. I don't know. He did put one off the crossbar as he stepped forward, but he was stepping forward from a very deep position. He took the space that was in front of him. I don't think just simply subbing Walks on would have prevented either of those goals. I don't think it would have changed anything in that way. And it would have been a little bit of an odd sub, and I know people would have reacted to it. And you don't not make it because of fans' reactions, but people would have been like, "Oh, we're losing, and you're subbing in a defender." So, I mean, that would have come up, but I just don't think it would have changed anything in that regard.
South Georgia's thought along those same lines: felt good all until the second goal, and wondered how impactful Walks would have been versus Franco in this game. Seems like a big game to throw the new guy into, especially given the quality Walks has provided. What do you think?
Walks was good, but I don't think Franco, outside of being aggressive in that one moment, Walks might have played that differently. That's really about it. Franco did a really good job in the first half on Shabilko. He followed him. He really shut Shabilko down in the first half. So I liked that element. Alan Franco's going to play. He's going to get the majority of the minutes. It'll be Robinson and Franco when they play two center backs. I think that's the way it's going to go. And it's nothing against Walks. It's just Alan Franco's a better player. That's just the reality of it. And he's got to play. And I think Heinze made that kind of clear on Saturday. Like, he's got to start playing because you brought him here to be that guy that he has been. He's a better player. Now he's got to play like a better player. And I don't think he played like a lesser player last night, but he's got to get minutes. You can't really judge him just off of one game.
Right. Edmund Gibson, looking at the extremes that we saw last night in the overreactions, was really happy overall last night in spite of the result. A few mistakes easily attributed to the early stages of the season proved costly, but there's so much positive there. But all of the ATL fan hysterics are as trash as the Philly flopping. When you're already seeing people saying Heinze is as trash as DeBoer,
I haven't seen that one yet.
Dom and Ibarra shouldn't be on the field. It just makes me sad at that overly loud and wrong group.
I don't know where that stuff comes from. I have not seen the down on Heinze takes yet. That wow, that'd be another level. There does have to be perspective, and I think if you guys have listened to this show long enough, you know that we try to provide that perspective. And you can disagree 100% and say that it's, making excuses, and what was the other one I've seen lately? Only defending the club. And yeah, you can go into that. I think we were pretty critical at times last year too, but we also understood what was going on. We try to give you context. Mm-hmm. It's easy just to yell. And as a very smart person told me this week, maybe for some, yelling and being negative is their way to try to sound smart.
Yes.
Maybe that's it. We try to give more than that. And it might not be what people want to hear, and that's completely fine. Everybody kind of consumes sports in a different way. But no, I the way I see it, this is my personal opinion, Gabriel Heinze really didn't make any mistakes last night. I didn't have any problems with his lineup, with his tactics, with his decisions, with his subs. I didn't have any problem with any of that. My problem was with the players' reaction to conceding and falling behind. I thought they tried to get it back too fast. They overreacted in that moment. They're young. That's going to happen. I think you have to continue working in the attack and getting better and building chemistry and looking for more combinations and all of the things that go into building an attack that needs time. It just needs time. Joseph needs time as well, which adds to the complications with that because he's not all there yet. Yes, Patrick, all caps are a sign of intelligence. That's a good point.
Yes, they are.
I like that. I missed that. The more capital letters, the smarter it is. It's the way that I see the game. It's the way that maybe others around here see the game. Sometimes we all have our disagreements and seeing things too. Like I think Jarrett, as we were talking last night, Jarrett was more hung up on the referee. I wasn't as bothered by the referee. I was more hung up on this. That's what happens, and that's okay. We all look at it differently. We all react to things differently. But overreacting to loss number 1 of 5. Mm-hmm. Ooh. Slow down. Slow down. I think you saw enough in this loss to take a lot of positives out of it. And I hope that people do. Thomas Jewin, if I highlight my message and do all caps, I must be mostest smart of all.
Mostest smartest, yes.
Yes.
That is absolutely true.
Absolutely. It's just part of the discourse of the game. If you watch, different countries have different discourses. Different areas have different reactions. Different fan bases react to things differently. I hope that Atlanta can become a fan base that doesn't fall apart after losses as often as it does at times. I love the passion, but a little bit of perspective and a little bit of context is needed in these because not every loss is the same. Not every loss is the end of the world. There are bad losses. There are wins that are not so good. There are great wins. And there are losses that are frustrating because it should have been more than it was. All of the above and 20 other descriptors you can throw on it, just how it goes.
Yeah, it usually falls into choice D, and that's what we're in here for, is to give all of the above and perspectives and context and all that stuff.
No, we're just here to do our thing. We're not here to provide things that others aren't. We're just here to do our thing. Yeah. That's the number one thing, is we do what we do. And, for some, that's not how they consume it. They want to be angry and yell and have the funniest insult and create narratives, and that's all fine. That's all fine. Or it's just, let's pick things apart and be negative, and that's fine too. It's just not my mentality. I was happy with the performance. I was not happy with the reaction to conceding. And that's what it boiled down to me, was up to the goal being conceded, I was very happy with where this team was. Less happy in the second half, but it was like 10, 12 minutes in. But very happy with the way this team looked to start. Exceedingly happy. I thought it was the best 45 they've played.
Yep.
And I was very disappointed with the reaction to falling a goal behind, because I didn't think it was necessary, and I honestly didn't see it coming.
Also on the board on the Twitters, a couple of Andre Blake thoughts.
Okay.
Domer, on last night's loss, Domer wants to burn things, but he's excited for what they're creating. With the high line we're playing, we'll be giving up some bad goals, but it's still frustrating in the moment.
You can't burn it down when you're happy about what's being created. Sometimes the next level doesn't fit, but if you burn it down, well, then you got to start over.
Yep. And then following up, he goes, and this is in all caps, damn, D-A-Y-U-M, that's how it was spelled, damn, if Blake wasn't such an amazing keeper, we would have been up 3-0 at the half. Swickster says that it was a highlight reel game by at Andre Blake 29, away from coasting into the second leg. The injury fakers can piss off, but there's a reason Blake is the starter for Jamaica. All respect to him.
Blake was great. So the XG was over 2.1, I think. So he took 2 goals away from you. That's a credit to him. That's absolutely a credit. And then if you look at the XG, then according to that, Atlanta gifted a goal to Philadelphia. I think they gifted the XG to Philadelphia too, but they gifted an additional goal to Philadelphia. That feels about right. Like if you want to, and I'm not a giant XG person, but I think it does tell you a lot about this game. Atlanta probably should have had a couple of goals in the first half. And Philadelphia probably shouldn't have had 3. What it doesn't tell you is if Atlanta gets a couple goals in the first half, does Philadelphia get the chances they did in the second? I don't think they do. Game state is another big element here, and Atlanta did lose the initiative. Gustavo says, my only criticism is that this is a 180-minute game. Atlanta United disconnected itself from the game voluntarily. That's unacceptable. You have to be strategic when you lose 1-0. You have to play the next game. I think in a coming year, Atlanta will be able to do that under hindsight. I don't think they can really handle that right now. Because I think they're trying to establish the way they play. I agree with you, and I think like next year, it'd have a different feel to it. I didn't think they needed to get defensive and shut it down at 1-0. I thought they could go get one, but I didn't think they needed to throw everything forward to do it right then either and expose too much. I think there was a middle ground. But I think right now they're trying to establish the way they play, Gustavo, and they're more focused on that than the individual results at the moment. And I think it will serve the team really well going forward, but it's going to cost you some results early on.
Matt Wagner's in this morning, and he says, here's my hashtag overreaction Wednesday take. Atlanta needs to solve the Barco-Moreno dilemma. Stats and facts may prove me wrong, but I feel like both players play better centrally. Moreno, as of late, doesn't seem as comfortable out wide.
There's been quite a few people who've said that. I don't have as much of a problem with Moreno out wide. I want him to be more effective, but I think it's too early to write him off. I think he has been effective on the dribble. I think he has been effective in 1v1s, but I want the product after the 1v1. I think you're trying to figure out who your best two are going to be out wide. Is it Moreno? Is it Mulraney? Is it Dom? Who are the two of the three? I don't know if there's anybody else who really pushes into that unless you want to push Brooks Lennon up higher into the team, which some have called for, which would be an interesting initiative, but that's going to mean Gurr or Ronald Hernandez locking down right back when they play four in the back, and I don't know if either one is in that position just yet to do it. We haven't seen Ronald Hernandez, Jack Gurr, we've seen one time.
Bart's in this morning. He says, I'm upset we lost, but I'm not upset at the team, the manager, or any player. I'm mad at our sport, which allows for results like this and leaves great performances unrewarded. Weirdly, I feel more confident about this season after that performance.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel more confident about the season, but I don't have less confidence in it. And Percy said something about overreacting to a loss and loss 1 of 5 being the worst loss. What I'm saying in general, I'm not sure exactly where you're trying to go there. What I'm saying about it is overreacting to this loss is lacking the context of what happened on the night. I think trying to say that it is a bad loss, a horrible loss, I don't care what order it is, I don't care how many losses you've had, the reactions at times are over the top to this specific loss. That's all. I don't know. Maybe I'm not making my point well enough. It wouldn't be the first time. Sorry if that's the case.
In-game's overreaction. Grigley played well. It's one of those games. The future's bright, but I will not spend any more dollars for CONCACAF tickets with officiating like that. I don't accept that it's just CONCACAF anymore. They can do better.
That was a MLS referee, though. That was Jair Marufo, who worked the game in Orlando, who did really well. I don't know what else he could have done. I don't have a problem with the refereeing. I have a problem with the tactics from Philadelphia, but again, they get the lead. That's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do because they did not want to play straight up at that point in a track meet with Atlanta because the first half wasn't fun for them. So you can't give up the lead. But Jair Marufo is a good referee. He was a good referee in Orlando. Like, he did that game. It's not that long ago. It wasn't even a CONCACAF referee situation. I don't have a problem with it. The only other thing he could have done would have been to throw yellow card after yellow card after yellow card after yellow card. I've always said it, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it now. I don't like referees in competitions that have accumulation issues. And CONCACAF, for me, the accumulation is an issue. It's stupid. It's 2 yellow cards and you're suspended for the next game. That's way too low in these kinds of games. It should be higher. But if I'm a referee going into a tournament like that, I don't want to throw yellow cards unless I absolutely have to. And he didn't. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that in the grand scheme of things. I wish he'd added more time, but he didn't affect anything with the result. The referee had 0 to do with the result tonight, or last night.
It all runs together.
Pretty much.
Ricky Ricardo says, the take that we shouldn't have been in CCL anyway just seems like a cop-out. Reality is, we're in CCL. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth. You have to take advantage of every opportunity because it's not a given, despite us being there the last 3 years. We as a fan base cannot treat this competition as a throwaway no matter the circumstances. The team will be fine in the long run, but CCL should always be a priority.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it wasn't. I don't get the sense that it wasn't by any stretch, and I'm not really worried about how people on the outside are looking at it. I think the team took it very seriously, and again, they played really well and should have taken the lead. They didn't. You got to give Andre Blake a lot of credit there, and you've also got to keep working to score goals.
A couple of other lists for folks who have submitted their top 5s of hate.
Top 5 of hate.
Top 5s of hate. Steve Dojnik says, top 8 is Red Bulls, NYCFC, Philly now, Toronto, and Orlando. That's his top 5.
Atlanta-Philly is a good rivalry. If that kicks up because of this, I'm good with it. That'll be a good one.
Michael had his hate list. 1 through 4 are Red Bulls, and 5 after last night is now Philadelphia.
Okay. I'm okay with hate coming out of this.
Ellen Reynolds, top 5 most hated. Number 1 is Red Bulls. 2 is Orlando. 3 is DC, which we haven't heard yet.
No, we've heard it. A few people have said DC. I think Katie Weaver said DC.
And then 4 is Toronto, and 5 is LAFC for Ellen.
Okay.
And then let's see if anybody else has submitted lists. No more submitted lists, but two other points. One from Tafka. What was with the missed handball toward the end? It was damn near obvious.
I thought it was. Yeah, I was surprised I didn't get a look. I thought his arm was away from his body. I think the main camera angle didn't give us a great look. You might have had a better look from where you were, John.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it looked like extended away from the body, so I would have thought handball. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it did. There was one before that the arm was not extended away from the body that I didn't think was a handball, but that one I specifically remember thinking it would be a handball.
And then last note in the timeline that catches us up on Twitter is a USL note, and It is from Jeff Reuter from Tafka. The USL is now a new international broadcasting deal with ESPN to show matches throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, adding 55 new countries to the USL's global reach.
Good stuff. That's good for the growth of the league. I want to get into some other things, too. If you have more comments on the Twitch pitch, please go ahead. Gustavo says, I'm very angry because the problem are the wingers. They don't finish. I don't want to overreact, but if you play with three up top, they have to learn how to finish, or we can only play with one who is not yet at his best level. Byrne continues and says, wingers are forwards and need to score, no excuse. I think you guys are in some ways misunderstanding the role of the wingers in this team. The wingers are not necessarily forwards. They're wingers. They stretch the field. They need to operate wide. The goals need to come from the number 9, obviously, and you need to get Joseph going. But I think the goals are going to come more from the interiores, the interior midfielders, the Barco and Heinemann spots when they play a 4-3-3. I think those are the guys you're looking at for more goals than the wingers who are out wide. They're the playmakers. They're the creators. It's the central guys that you're looking at for more opportunities. That's the way I've always seen this kind of team playing out. It could be my misinterpretation. But the wingers, and something Heinze has been very clear about consistently, is he wants them very, very wide. When you're on the touchline, you're not going to be in goal-scoring positions as much. Now, I think the next level of this is where you're scoring from deliveries from the opposite side. Moreno puts in a cross to the backside to Dom. Dom puts in a cross to the backside to Moreno. That's an element that needs to happen more. But in general, I think you're looking for more production from a goal-scoring perspective from Barco and Heinemann as opposed to Dom and Moreno, who are further away from goal. That's my interpretation of it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you on that. What else is on the Twitch pitch?
Lots of things on the Twitch pitch. Thomas Jewin says Emerson's been great. Still think this team will generate more goals with Barco and Moreno at central midfield. That's another element if you decide that you want Mulroney on and you rate Moreno over Heinemann in that central midfield role. I don't know if Moreno's game necessarily changes there. He gives you a little bit more defensively than Heinemann might, although Emerson's been very good in that aspect. I don't know. I'd have to see it. I'd have to see how the combinations work. And so much of it is combination. So much of it is combination play that it's just building it up. We'll have to see. Yesterday in UEFA Champions League, you saw what we kind of expected. Great goal from Christian Pulisic, first off. Outstanding goal from him. Great composure to take it the way that he did. And equally awesome goal from Karim Benzema, who is incredibly underrated consistently. And it finished 1-1. At that point, Real Madrid's pretty happy. It depends on who you talk to. Like, some are saying Chelsea got everything they needed, they'll be fine. Others are saying Real Madrid did exactly what they wanted, they'll be fine. It's pretty even. Chelsea's got a little bit of an edge with the away goal. What did you take out of that game?
I think that showing, if Chelsea getting the one on the board, you want to get that one away goal. And I think that you and I had talked about it going in, and we figured it was going to be a 1-1 draw. But seeing what we saw with Pulisic putting it in, and then the Benzema goal was just absolutely ridiculous. And the more that I'm seeing of Real Madrid in Champions League, it's like they're hanging around. They're always there. and then they capitalize on that one moment. And I know that you've been high on Chelsea specifically because of the bracket and how things have laid out, and Real Madrid with their injuries, and I'm kind of leaning more and more toward Real Madrid just because they're hanging around as much as they are. But apparently, did you hear this about Marcelo?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. He will not be able at this point to play in the second leg because he's a poll worker. I guess it's kind of like jury duty, and if you're selected for it, you can't get out of it.
Yeah, and you can't be there by yourself, and so he apparently, as of right now, has to do his time as a poll worker for the election and will not be available as of right now, as we're talking, for leg number 2. And your early juice boxes for Stamford Bridge. Chelsea's at a plus 127. Your draw, your 90-minute results a plus 231, and Real Madrid's a plus 227. So interesting stuff with leg 2. And I saw that news about Marcelo. I'm like, oh, well, that's something I haven't seen before. But I would think that Real Madrid could maybe get that postponed, kind of like jury duty. They're not, sit there and you get a good excuse.
So far, they're not. They're like, being an athlete's not a good excuse. So, no, they've already tried to get it postponed. We're not at the idea like, oh, it just came up. Like, no, they've already been denied on getting it removed.
Oof. That's going to be, between now and then, it's going to be really interesting. But the more Real Madrid hangs around for me, the more I'm convinced that Zidane can do something in that second leg to get that away goal. No. I know.
No, I think it's Chelsea. I think they did get what they wanted. I think they're going to be fine. I think Chelsea gets the win. Ricky, hey, it probably will, but right now they say they've tried and they haven't been able to pull it off. I know you want Marcelo to be there. I know. I got you, Ricky. Be curious to hear how you feel after Real Madrid's not exactly lighting the world on fire performance, but they're banged up. We'll see if they get Sergio Ramos back for that second leg. I'm curious to see that. I don't know when it's actually kept anybody out. I'm not sure. I've never heard of it even coming up, Ricky.
This is the first time I've heard of it, period.
Gustavo says that the wingers need to be forwards and the interiores need to be forwards. So he's looking at 5 forwards up front. He says otherwise this will be painful. Barco and Marcelino were never goal scorers in Argentina. They didn't play in that system, though. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I understand it, Gustavo. I have read enough about Gabriel Heinze that the wingers are looked at a little bit differently than the interiores. So I think so far we're seeing more opportunities for the interiores, the Barco and Heinemann spots, to go to goal than for the wingers. They're more delivery. The other guys are more finishing. You need somebody else other than just the number 9 to be contributing. And it can come from all of the group. But I focus more on the interior players than the wingers to give you that goal scoring. Players put in different roles can do more than they've done in the past. They can. I mean, that's just a fact. They've got to do it, and you've got to see it. I think Heinemann's had some really good opportunities. He hasn't found the back of the net. If he scores that goal against Blake from last night, we're having a very different conversation about this entire match. It's an amazing save from Andre Blake. It's not that that's life. It's not that it's just, oh, well, whatever. You've got to keep working at it. But I really do think it's more on the central players to give you more goal-scoring opportunities than the wide players. They're creating them. We'll see. We'll see. Burns says Raheem Sterling playing left wing for Pep in 2019 would disagree with your interpretation of the winger's role in a Pep system, and Leroy Sané and Mahrez more recently. This year, Pep's playing differently. But we now play like he played 2 years ago with a striker as a focal point. I think we're still figuring out how we play. I'm telling you from the way I'm seeing it right now, the wingers are in wider positions where they're not in as much goal-scoring opportunities. How much are you seeing Jurgen Damm with goal-scoring opportunities versus Heinemann or Barco? That's the way I'm seeing it. I think that's the way it's playing at the moment because you're so focused on stretching the field. It will come where it flows more consistently. It's not there yet. It's 5 games in. I don't think you can overreact to that element just yet. You do need more production. No way around it. You need more production. But you can skin the cat here with how you get that production in a variety of ways. And Pep's shown you different ways. Plenty of other managers have shown you different ways. It depends on your group. It depends on the players in the group. Somebody's got to be that additional goal-scoring threat out of that 5. It can be a winger. My opinion is it's more likely to be a central player. And feel free to disagree. That's completely fine. I don't think anybody's necessarily wrong yet because neither one of them are doing anything extra. You need more. You need somebody to be that person. One of those other 4 outside of the number 9 have to be that.
Michael Head says Chelsea's performance was much like Atlanta United's yesterday. Chelsea played Madrid off the pitch for the first 25, was wasteful with their chances, got 1 goal, gave up 1 against the run of play. However, Chelsea was mentally stronger to overcome the goal against.
Well, Chelsea was on the road, so I think it's a different conversation. Like, they are happy at 1-1. Happier, and Thomas Tuchel, I think, has shown you that. Atlanta was at home. They needed to go for it more than Chelsea would have. Now, Real Madrid is a different team than Atlanta. They're going to keep it cagier. That's we've seen enough of that from Zidane as well, too. So he has a different mentality than Heinze does. So that's why they did what they did. They're comfortable with how that finished up. Maybe a little too comfortable, in my opinion, because I think Chelsea wins the second leg, but they're okay with where they are. Atlanta in the home leg was not comfortable falling down 1 behind, and that's an issue. They're going to have to learn how to play their game when they fall behind and not lose the composure.
And also, once again, to catch us up on Twitter, last night when we were doing Salty Takeaway, we had a cameo.
We had a cameo?
Yes, we did. While Nick was still at the grounds at MBS, at the Kelly Francis was buzzing past Nick's broadcast position and referred to Philadelphia as soft, S-A-W-F-T, soft, as she was buzzing and heading back to her humble abode. Rich Ransom, I guess, is apologizing for all Philadelphia fans and saying, sorry, we made at the Kelly Francis mad.
Philly was soft, but Philly was also trying to get under Atlanta's skin, and it kind of worked.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it goes. You get the lead, you can play that way. I think they were less soft and more acting soft. It felt like more acting and silliness than anything. Sergio Santos was a little bit embarrassing. He kind of took it to a whole new level, though.
I was going to say that Sergio Santos just fell down again.
He took it to a whole new level. His was a little over the top. Shabilko's was a little over the top, too, where he took a kick to the ribs and then grabbed his face. He couldn't figure out what to grab, and that was a little, But welcome to time wasting when you have a lead.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I think it started back, in the 55th? With Blake going down the first time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But that's what you do. I mean, you've got a lead. You're in CONCACAF. This is what happens. This is what you do. It's all a part of that dynamic.
A ball kicked from 10 yards. Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah.
About Shabilko. He wasn't literally kicked. He might have rolled off the field if he had been literally kicked the way it was going. A ball was kicked into him from 10 yards. And
yes,
it was very, very painful for him. And then I think he was a little embarrassed when he got called out on it.
But but once again, this is what you do in these situations. You've got a lead. You're trying to get out of town. You will take every possible advantage that is in front of you. If it's swapping out guys who are going to kick a ball when it comes to any kind of a reintroduction, a set piece, anything like that, you sit there and you're standing over the ball, and then you sit there and after 29 and 9-10 seconds, you sit there and go, nah, I'm going to go ahead and go forward. Then let somebody else come in. And then you have keepers who get right up to that 30 seconds. You have players swapping out for throw-ins. All these kinds of things are a part of that gamesmanship, and you're going to take full advantage if you're in the lead on the road or in CONCACAF, and sometimes all the above.
And it drives you crazy, and you do things like Gustavo where you head the roof of your apartment. I think a lot of Atlanta fans actually do understand that one, Gustavo. I don't know how people feel about losses in general. I think some people just get angry about a loss every time it happens, and that's going to drive you insane. You can't really do that. People have different reactions to different losses. When you lose to a better team, I think in general it's like, yeah, that was kind of coming. We weren't good enough. And it doesn't hurt as much. When you are the better team and you lose to a lesser team on the night, not in general, but on the night, that is where you'll head your apartment roof. You'll jump up, you'll slam something down, you'll punch the wall, like that kind of stuff. When you in bigger picture, when you lose to a bad team, that can drive you insane. Even if you don't play well and you just lose to a bad team, like that maybe is the one that drives me the most crazy. A night like last night doesn't drive me quite as crazy because it's like you didn't convert your chances. You didn't convert. This was not bound to happen, but you could see it kind of coming because of that.
Yeah.
I get more angry. I have Gustavo's reaction when you lose to a Cincinnati or, to an Austin this year, to a Colorado, a team that should not be playing at your level, but you allow them to. That's where I get the angriest with a loss.
Yeah. And because I think that we all have that expectation of going in and you sit there and you say that your team is better than Team X, the team that you're going to play. And there's that noticeable difference of what it looks like in the standings and all that kind of thing. And when you sit there and you line up against a Cincinnati or an Austin or a Colorado or what have you, and you don't take care of business, those are the ones that, much like you, those are the ones for me that would drive me crazier than any other situation that we're looking at. Where if it's comparable, if you think that you have an advantage for one reason or another, and then something happens, and then you look at the context of the situation. But no, if it's an even matchup, I don't get as bent out of shape. But if it's a matchup that you sit there and you're looking at juice boxes and there's a big minus next to your team and things don't happen, then yeah, naturally that's going to be the one where you sit there and you're banging your head against the wall, you're throwing things or doing what have you for that kind of a reaction. But I didn't have that after last night.
All right, tonight in CONCACAF, you've got Columbus hosting Monterrey. You've got Portland hosting Club America. You have UEFA Champions League this afternoon, PSG hosting Manchester City. What were our picks on that one, John?
PSG, Manchester City. You and I had the draw. Jarrett had PSG, and Nick picked Manchester City just to be different.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a way to make picks. In Libertadores, you've got Defensa hosting Universitario tonight. You've got Olimpia hosting Always Ready. You've got Barcelona hosting the strongest. River Plate hosts Atletico Junior. Nacional hosting Atletico Nacional. That's a good one. Uruguay hosting Colombia. Lots of games. I'll be watching the CONCACAF ones tonight. The rest of the day, because we are on our way out now. Thanks for hanging out with us a little bit later than usual. So 2:00 stoppage time, facebook.com/929. 7:00 tonight, trivia with Soccer in the Streets. You can make a donation, any donation, whatever you can spare, and you get a ticket to play in trivia. John is a guest quiz master tonight. Very curious to see what questions he has. I have not seen them as of yet.
I was going to say, I have submitted them.
I know. I haven't had time to look at them yet. I am curious to see where this goes. But that's tonight at 7:00. There will be much fun and ridiculousness as usual on that. Final word goes to Gustavo. Philadelphia is a good team. I don't object the quality of the win. They finished its few chances. That's all. But I don't like hindsight as a politician. Argentine fans don't like that. I didn't think that at all, Gustavo. I just don't get that sense. I think he's explaining exactly what he saw. It's pretty much the way I saw the game. I think Atlanta played well. I think they were the better team. They didn't finish their chances. They didn't react well to conceding. That's kind of where my head is. Yeah. I'm not as frustrated about this loss because they did lose to a good team, and they created a number of chances, and they played well in losing. I'm not frustrated yet either because it's early, and that's probably the biggest thing for me is I'm not as frustrated because of the context of it at this point. I knew it would take some time, and I think it still will take some time, and there'll be some more ups and downs, and it's just part of the nature of building a new way of playing, and we'll see how it shakes out. We'll see if the wingers get involved in the attack more. We'll see if those attacking eights get involved in the attack more. We'll see if things change. I mean, that's the other thing, is Gabriel Heinze came into this with an idea of the way he wanted to play based off his time in Argentina. where he didn't play teams like MLS teams, and it's a different way of playing. He's got different players than he's used to. He will learn and adjust. Does that happen immediately? Does that happen quickly? Does that happen over time? That's all part of the process, and it's going to be a fun ride to watch all of it. Need to be a better performance on Saturday. Need to find the back of the net to change the game and get one of those early goals rather than conceding first. That's just going to be a big conversation this year, is getting that first goal. So we'll break it down more on Stoppage Time. We'll have trivia tonight. We'll be back tomorrow morning. We've got Dry County Brewing this Friday in Kennesaw. Lots of guests. It's going to be a big show. Friday night, 6 o'clock. Hope we'll see you in person. If not, we'll see you on Twitch. Y'all have a good rest of the day. We'll see you in a little while. Much plot, y'all.
Much plot, y'all.